Live from parts unknown, you're listening to Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Podcast, the only wrestling podcast on the planet, we think. Sit back, relax, prepare for positivity to run through your veins as Simon Miller gives you your weekly dose of powerful pro wrestling audio. It is Miller Time.
Hello and welcome to Simon Miller's Pro Wrestling Podcast. My name is Simon Miller and this is a pro wrestling podcast, and it's probably the most exciting week in all of professional wrestling. We've had WrestleMania, we've had Raw, and of course because there is so much going down in the wrestling world this week, it means we are going to do more than one podcast because, you know, what kind of person would I be if I didn't do that? I want to thank everyone for their kind messages that I received this week, all the people that let me know they enjoyed WrestleMania. A lot of people told me they hated WrestleMania. We'll get into it all. Don't worry about it. But I'm also privileged and honoured to say I have a guest today. He very kindly donated to the Patreon, patreon.com/Simon316, where you too can come on the podcast, should you wish. It's my man, Zachary Smith. Zach, how you doing today?
Simon, I'm very good, sir. How are you doing?
I'm excellent, dude. I try and be excellent all the time, but today I'm especially excellent. Now, we had a quick chat before you came on, and you're all the way across in Florida, of all places, in Jacksonville.
I am, yes, sir. Absolutely.
I don't know why that excites me. It just does. I guess because deep down I'm just a child, and I find it amazing that even in 2018 we can have conversations, even though we're in two completely different parts of the world.
It is very cool. It is very cool to have to think about the time difference and be like, oh right, I'm calling completely almost across the world.
Yeah, dude, we live in an amazing time. I think sometimes we don't appreciate it enough. So I just thought I'd take this 30 seconds to try and appreciate it. So look, before, like I say, me and Zach are going to talk about WrestleMania. We're going to talk about Raw, and then we've got another podcast tomorrow. We'll go into SmackDown and some other stuff that I want to talk about, do the Q&A. But Zach, before we get into all of that, I mean, give us some wrestling background. How long have you been watching it? What got you into wrestling? You know, what's your kind of your wrestling landscape as we speak? So
the earliest that I can remember wrestling off the top of my head was about 2002 or 2003. My benchmark is kind of the first and second Elimination Chambers. The first things that I can remember in wrestling is seeing like Edge and Chris Jericho interrupting Triple H and for Elimination Chamber setup. So my first memories are around the 2002, 2003 time, and then about 2008, 2009, 2010, during that very interesting period, kind of fell off, and then I came back right after Roman Reigns won the Royal Rumble. Because of the WWE Network, I came back, and I've been back ever since.
Okay, so I mean, you've literally followed the pattern that all wrestling fans seem to follow.
Yeah.
You get into it, you watch it for a few years, something annoys you, you go away for a few more years, and you come back, and that's it. You watch it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I mean, it's amazing. It genuinely is. Anybody I ever talk to about wrestling, you kind of get. It's like a drug. You kind of get the high, and then it wears off, and it's a bit crap, and then eventually you just go back to it because you think, I'm just going to watch it again.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so you've been watching sort of like 15 years or thereabouts. I mean, who is your guy? Who's the guy you always warm to? Who's the guy you always look forward to seeing? Like, who is on top of your on your wrestling mountain?
So top of the wrestling mountain is hard. So Edge is the first entrance that I ever saw on TV. So he's definitely up there. Apparently you and I are the only ones on this island. Triple H was the second one I saw, so he's on that list.
It is just you and me, man. Nobody else.
Yeah, it's just you and me. It's fine. It's very cool. And then, so more recently, I always say that if you ask me who my favorite is Kevin Owens, and I am fairly certain, I'll plant my flag around that AJ Styles is the best in the world. So it's very hard to take out any of those four from my kind of list that I have in my head.
Yeah. Do you watch anything other than WWE, or are you pretty much a WWE guy?
I am definitely a WWE guy. I will catch if Ring of Honor or New Japan does something, and it's usually, if it's on YouTube, I'll catch it there. But for the most part, I am kind of the prototypical WWE fan that kind of lives in the bubble for the most part.
I think that's fine, man. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think sometimes the internet likes to make out that there is, but you know, it's entertainment, and you should venture out to the stuff you enjoy. I always find this fascinating just because I'm an old man. Have you ever gone back to the Attitude Era to kind of get a feel for what that was, or do you know what it is, but you just leave it where it is?
Absolutely. I have definitely gone back because even at the Hall of Fame this year when Triple H is putting Jeff Jarrett in and most of the stuff, or Kid Rock in, excuse me, he's talking about the Attitude Era. So even WWE still mentions it a lot. So I definitely have gone back because a lot of what everything is kind of built on now is built on that. And, you know, if Stone Cold is the biggest guy that's ever been in wrestling, it's hard to not go back and see how different it was. And as a whole, it's a very kind of weird time, but just hearing the difference between the Attitude Era and today, I've definitely gone back and I've, like on the network, watched shows from there and pay-per-views from there. So yeah, I definitely go back to it a lot.
Okay, that's interesting. I think that's the best thing about the network. I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir, but again, you know, we talked about earlier about how it's amazing we can have a Skype conversation across the world. It's the same with the network. When I was a kid, I had everything on tape. You know, the fact now that you can just store it just in the magical, you know, the cloud or whatever is on servers is awesome. Right, okay, we are going to talk about WrestleMania 34. We'll go through it kind of, maybe a bit specifically, maybe a bit sort of more lax. But overall, I mean, when I was watching it, I actually thought it was a really, really good show. I'm not saying it's perfect by any means. It was too long. We all know that. But I was surprised when I returned to social media and just, you know, got the vibe of the internet. A lot of people were far more down on it than I was expecting. That's cool. Like I say, people didn't like it. I was just surprised because to me, especially the first few hours, it's like, this is awesome stuff. Where did you come down on it?
I definitely, as I was watching it, I really enjoyed it. So I didn't see the pre-show initially. So the first thing that I see is the Intercontinental Triple Threat match. And so it was a cool way to start it out. And through the show, I really liked the show. There were some things I'm sure we'll get to that kind of made you cocky. Huh, that's interesting. But for the most part, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm so sorry, Simon. I meant to tell you when we came out, Happy Jinder Mahal Day, man.
Oh yeah, what a wonderful day it is. I mean, you know, everyone loves Jinder Mahal, and you know there wasn't anybody else in that match that probably could have used it.
No, it wouldn't have done anything for anybody.
I don't. We'll get there. I mean, it's not just because I'm biased towards Rusev, which I obviously am, but we will get to that down the line. Yep. Do you see in the pre-show? Do you see any of the Battle Royals or anything like that?
Yeah, I went back and I did see the both Battle Royals and the Cruiserweight title match, which it was actually one of my favorite matches of the night. So yeah, I went back and saw it. Yeah,
I thought the problem with both Battle Royals is it's just a Battle Royal in that guise never works. Well, I know that's what a Battle Royal is, but it never works for me because you are just literally, it's like, you know, the problem with the Iron Man match. You don't really get into it till the last 10 minutes because you know that there's a predisposed time. And it's the same with the Battle Royal. It's like, well, I don't really care about the first, 5 to 8 minutes of this because until we get down to sort of the nitty gritty, I can see who's left in there and I can just start deciding, oh, would it be good if this person won or that person won? It is just kind of a bit like it was a cluster. It's the best word that I can think for it. However, when we talk about the men's one, I can't deny that when they did all the stuff with Bray Wyatt, I wasn't sat there with a massive grin on my face. And obviously that then spilled over to what happened on Raw, which I also thought was fantastic. I've gone from being absolutely sick of Bray Wyatt to, quite liking him again. So it's really hard to criticize that. And given that's the first thing we saw on WrestleMania, it actually kind of set me up for the evening.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was very cool because, like you said, a Battle Royal starts with, if there's 20 people in the ring, I can't really process that until we get down to a manageable number of people. And then to see Bray Wyatt come out, kind of similar to the way he would come out anyway, my first instinct was, oh no, please don't start a thing on the pre-show of WrestleMania. And then they hug and he wins and the crowd is cheering. It was it was the first time that I've had that reaction to a Bray Wyatt thing since he won the title at Elimination Chamber. Yeah, it was really cool.
I agree, and I know I've been talking for ages. I need something to do to rehab him. I actually thought they probably need to change the character, but this is taking it in a different direction. And for now, that may be enough. And I'm actually really glad Matt Hardy won. I really didn't think they were going to let him win, because I didn't know they had this plan. And they won obviously on Raw as well. We're now doing this. What are they calling it? A tag team eliminator. So we're not allowed to use the word tournament apparently anymore.
Yeah,
what do you call it? Bray Wyatt and Woken Matt Hardy beat tightest worldwide, so they're now going into next week's finals. If they win that, I'm all right with that. I'd take them all the way to Backlash. I'd have them beat Sheamus and Cesaro, and we'll talk about the tag title stuff later. But all of that, to me, is a really nice arc, and if it starts at WrestleMania 34, it's difficult to, be too negative on that match.
Definitely, and I think the cool thing is that initially I thought they were going to hold Bray Wyatt off for longer, and that they just did this at WrestleMania to be like, he's still here, it's fine. But then I always feel like the Raw after WrestleMania is like the start of here's what we're doing from here. And to see that Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy are going to be a part of that was really cool. Absolutely. Take them all the way through. I think that's a really interesting team to put together.
I do. I'm really happy they did it. Like, after the whole Ultimate Deletion thing, I didn't know what they were going to do. But yeah, I'm a big fan of all of this. I thought it was a good start. I really did think it was going to start to WrestleMania. I thought it was fun. I thought it was stupid. Matt Hardy just cracks me up because he's the weirdest guy ever. But it was tough. I think it really did set the mood for the evening. And a lot of people seem to have gone the other way. But for me, definitely, I was like, yeah, I'm in. I'm excited. It's WrestleMania. I want to see what's going to happen.
It was everything that you kind of want in an opener. You don't have to take it too seriously. It's kind of stupid. It'd be hard to explain to somebody who's not a wrestling fan, but it was a really cool moment.
Oh, man, there were so many of that on this show. So one of which I actually have to try and do. But again, we'll get there. We'll get there later on. And yeah, we had a 205 Live match. My only problem with it was, again, it's the same problem I had with most cruiserweight matches when WWE was involved. They do so much to let me know that they don't care, that eventually I stop caring. Like I said it on the Ups and Downs for What Culture. Halfway through, they had a promo for the Ronda Rousey match in like a picture-in-picture thing. It's like, you really don't want me to invest in this match, do you? I get they do it on SmackDown in the States. I get all that. But this is different. This is WrestleMania. We're fighting for a championship, and you're airing adverts. It's just like, what? Okay, well, I give up. And it's a shame because I actually thought both men, like you said, I thought they had a really good match. I thought, they really put the stuff on the line. There were some crazy spots. Cedric Alexander won, which I thought was exactly the right thing to do, given he was meant to win it when Enzo was still around, and then Enzo did all this stuff that we won't talk about. So it was almost like a culmination. Plus, it was the culmination of the Cruiserweight Championship tournament. There was so much here that could have been pushed, and yet, to me, I don't really think WWE got behind it enough.
No, and if it was weird because if you watched 205 Live ever since the title became vacant, it has been a big deal, and it's been very clear that 205 Live is under new management, and we're doing things differently, and we basically did another kind of Cruiserweight Classic, in a sense, in that we set up this tournament, and Cedric Alexander's clearly our guy from 16 months ago, and if you watch just 205 Live in a bubble, it definitely seems like a very cool, very genuinely awesome. Mustafa Ali is a completely different guy. And then you get to WrestleMania, and it's on the pre-show. And they always say, it's still the show. But if you have a commercial break in the middle of your match, that's not WrestleMania to me. And I don't necessarily know why you're showing me a promo for something that's about, like, I'm already here, man. You don't have to advertise to me. I'm here for it right now.
Yeah, exactly. I just think, look, if you want to, get this 205 or the Cruiserweight division to where it was meant to be, don't do this. Especially, and I like Cedric Alexander a lot. I think he's really good. But Mustafa Ali, I think, really has something special. Just the stuff he does. I really think you could showcase it. We didn't have to win here. I'm fine with the result, but yeah, I was a bit taken aback by all that. But hey, look, it was, in terms of the pre-show, it was a good one-on-one match. The crowd didn't really care, but I guess they're holding themselves. We've got like 6 hours to go. But yeah, I agree with you. And it's kind of the same for the women's battle royal as well. It was fine for what it was. Once it thinned out, it was decent. I did think it was weird they threw all those NXT women in there, and then they didn't really make any kind of splash whatsoever.
It definitely seemed like they were like, we need to have women from NXT, and we need to have multicultural representation at the same time.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But we're not going to have, like, this isn't where we're putting Ember Moon, which I'm 100% fine with, and we don't necessarily have the biggest names here. We just kind of have spot. It definitely seems like the momentum for this kind of fell back a bit, and it had cool spots in it where it was the NXT women, facing off, and that got a good reaction. But it definitely seemed weird that it was like it seemed like they needed some people to fill in for him.
Yeah, which I thought was, I think there's only 20 women in there in the end. But yeah. I think it's hard when you throw call-ups into a Battle Royal, they don't do anything. I mean...
And they don't get like an entrance or anything. It's just, there they are.
That I couldn't believe they actually showed all the women coming down together. It's like, why aren't you fighting? Have a fight!
Yeah,
it's like,
they did that. It reminded me very much of when they had the women's Battle Royal and like Kid Rock did a performance and they just walked past Kid Rock. I was like, okay, so we're still doing it this way then, huh?
Exactly. So strange. So very strange. But hey, look, the ending was good. Bayley tricks Sasha Banks, throws her out. Naomi actually, whatever. Like, it was what it was. I don't really get why Bayley couldn't have just won, but I mean, it's neither here nor there. There's been no fallout from that whatsoever. I mean, I guess we'll find out later on SmackDown. Maybe Naomi does something with that trophy. I don't know, but whatever. It was there to get people on the card. That's fine.
Absolutely.
And like you said, Mania started off properly, and in many ways, I mean, I wouldn't say it was downhill from there, but that triple threat match, I mean, was one of the best things on the damn show.
Yeah, it definitely started off with a bang, and that was a match that the story wasn't necessarily there, but I think the reason that it was still great is that you knew even if the story wasn't necessarily there, these are three of the best guys in terms of having a really, really, really good match, and if you put them together, at worst, you're going to get a really, really, really good match.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think there's a lot of unfair criticism towards The Miz. I think he held his own wonderfully. I think he did really well. He played his part. I actually think it would have been a detriment if he wasn't in the match. And I said this as well. Like, if I'm ever going to get booked on WrestleMania, obviously not, but if I ever was, if you're not going to be in the last match, be in the first match. That pop for Seth Rollins was so good. It's just like everyone's ready, everyone's excited. You just had the big build up to Mania. You put a big baby face out there, everyone goes crazy.
Yeah, it's the freshest that a crowd is going to be. You had warm-ups in the pre-show, and if you're gonna go on last, you better have a match that should be last. But yeah, put me out first when the crowd is at its hottest and I get a big moment. Absolutely.
I think so. I think it helps Seth Rollins as well because I think he did carry a lot of that momentum into Raw the following night. I really do think. I think that it sounded exciting. But yeah, great match. I was surprised that Seth Rollins won. I mean, they really don't like Finn Balor, do they? Because Seth Rollins obviously beat him on Raw. And I tell you what, I actually think it's hurting him too. Because I was amazed that Raw After Mania crowd, Finn Balor came out and they were quite lukewarm to him, I thought. They were like, yeah, okay, I mean, we like you, but... And there was a few boos. Yeah. But compared to Rollins, who was like... And even The Miz, The Miz was over. He got a lot of boos, but he was over. Balor felt a bit like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's really... I was convinced that Finn was going to win, and I thought it was just me at first, but when the Raw Elimination Chamber happened, I was watching it, and my girlfriend came over, and I did a quick test. So it's John Cena, Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns, Elias, Finn Balor's in there. Seth Rollins is in there. Everybody's in there. And I asked my girlfriend, I was like, all right, she's not a wrestling fan. I don't understand why it's a big deal that they're fighting if it's fake. It's a whole thing. And
she's got a point.
She does. It's hard to argue because it's true. But I asked her, I was like, all right, this is your company now. You have one championship for your best guy. Just look at the people in the ring. Who's your champion? First thing she said was, I would give it to John Cena, but he's older. Why the hell is he wearing jorts? I'm going to be honest. That's the first thing she said.
She's got a point.
Excellent, fantastic point. Second was she said, I put it on the guy in the blue trunks. The guy in the blue trunks was Finn Balor. And that's with Roman Reigns, and then that's with Braun Strowman in there. When Finn Balor came to Raw after the draft, and he got announced, and he came through the crowd, it was a very visceral, very positive, very cool reaction. When Finn Balor and Seth Rollins were at SummerSlam for the Universal title, Brooklyn kind of ruined it, booing the title belt being red, but it was a very cool moment. And here's two guys who you wouldn't think would be the guys that they're putting over for the title, and they win. And then Finn Balor gets injured. He has to relinquish the title. He never gets a rematch. And then now he's in WrestleMania, which is good, and I liked his entrance, but if you're going to be going for the NXT title in London and you come out as the Demon, it's weird to me that you just came out as just Finn Balor.
Yes, and I think that potentially, maybe, I don't know, I'm probably being a bit conspiracy theorist here, but maybe that was done because maybe it's true, maybe they don't want Finn Balor to be too over. I mean, that sounds insane, but we hear, we hear those kind of rumors and that news all the time, so maybe that's the case. I don't know, but yeah, I also thought it carried over on Raw as well. It felt like Seth Rollins had his place, it felt like The Miz had his place, but for a lot of that promo, Balor was just there. He was just hanging out. And it was a bit like, I don't know, he feels like the third wheel in all of this, and I don't necessarily think that he should.
Yeah, it was definitely at the end when it's Seth and Finn and Jeff Hardy. It was like, one of these things is not like the other. And as much as I like Jeff Hardy, and he's going to be good, he's always been good, you wouldn't necessarily think, if I had told you that like this time last year that all three of them are going to be in the ring, and if Finn Balor weren't in the ring, there wouldn't really be a difference. I don't know that I would have believed you, and that's kind of what happened. And that was kind of that moment for me, was like, it was a cool moment, and Seth looks good with the Intercontinental title, but I was looking, and I was like, oh, Finn doesn't need to be here, it feels like. Yeah,
honestly, and I found that intriguing. And like I say, he more than held his own in the match at WrestleMania, obviously. I'm just saying, in that fallout, 24 hours later on Raw, he was kind of just there. I mean, it does seem like we're going to get the triple threat match at Backlash between the three of them. I think that would be quite good. I imagine Rollins, retains there as well, and that's cool. Like, I think the match was so good at WrestleMania, and the fallout on Raw was so good. The feud, to me, now does feel a lot better than it did going into Mania.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, yes.
Did its job.
Yeah, exactly. It did its job. Exactly. And that's all, that's all you can really ever ask. But yeah, great start to WrestleMania. Really enjoyed all the curb stomp stuff they did that tied into the finish. And then we moved on to Charlotte versus Asuka. Now, great match. I really, really enjoyed this, especially because, to me, this was the first time I actually felt like, yes, this is WWE treating the women properly. They've just got a big match on a big showcase, and we're not banging that drum over and over again. It's just two good wrestlers having a championship match. Obviously, though, we get to the finish. And look, it was all really well put together. But to me, and I know why they've done it. They've clearly decided they want to do Charlotte versus Rousey instead of Asuka versus Rousey, which doesn't surprise me at all. But this, to me, was not the time to give up Asuka's streak. I don't mind that they did. It's got to be taken out somewhere, and why not someone like Charlotte Flair? She's got all the accolades to do it, but it just didn't feel right. To me, it just didn't feel right.
Yeah, it was cool insofar as 100 times out of 100, I did not expect Charlotte to win. So when she did, it was like, oh, okay. And in the middle, they had what had to be one of the best women's matches I've ever seen. I think the problem here is that when you build somebody up like this and they're built up around a streak, they said a lot about Asuka being like the female Goldberg. And I think the biggest problem with the fact that Goldberg eventually lost to Kevin Nash was not so much the way they did it or who beat him. It's that when you build up something like the streak, the most interesting thing about Asuka was that she had not lost.
Yes.
And I think the bigger problem with ending the streak is that in the immediate, you hadn't really done anything else to make me care about her. I think this could be good in that, all right, streak's over. Now, if you want to have Asuka as a big main roster performer, you're going to have to do something else. Because you can't do another win streak now. It would be pointless.
Yeah.
So you have to make her interesting, because when I went into that match, the only thing that really interested me about Asuka was that, she hasn't lost yet. Whereas Charlotte, they're very clearly building the entire division and its place in history. I don't know if you know, Simon. It's very historic. It's revolutionary.
I've heard. I have
heard. Yeah, once or twice. And the division's going to be built around her. So I'm 100% fine with her winning any time. But I just hope that they have something for Asuka to do now.
Yes, that's my worry. It always felt like they were protecting her because of this streak. Yeah. And the other thing as well, and we'll kind of, we'll get to it, is I don't like it. I don't like it's a bit strong. I find it interesting when you have, obviously this is the first time we've ever had 2 Royal Rumble winners, and neither were successful at WrestleMania. That to me is always a bit, I'm not saying it will do. Of course I don't think next year anyone's going to think any different. But it does water down the Royal Rumble just a little bit when neither of them, and what I mean, it didn't do it. Them winning the Royal Rumble made no difference to anything.
It definitely did, and I think at the Royal Rumble they have to, small tweak, they have to stop saying the winner of the Royal Rumble will main event WrestleMania, because that hasn't happened in years, and I understand why it hasn't happened. But I'm watching the Royal Rumble. I'm very excited. But I hear Michael Cole say Shinsuke Nakamura is going to main event WrestleMania, and immediately out loud, like, no, he's not.
Yeah, there's no way.
A little bit. Yeah, that's a little bit of a problem. It was definitely weird having both of them lose, because it always seems like it's a momentum shift in terms of who wins the Royal Rumble. And I get what they're doing storyline-wise. Like you said, we'll get to it. But it's definitely weird that both of them lost, and neither of them were, like, particularly close to being the main event.
Yeah. I mean, that aside, it was a great match. It really, really was. It's one of my favorite women's WWE matches ever. Again, mostly because of how it was presented to me. I just like that. And you know what? I've got no problem. Look, if Charlotte's going to win and she's going to go and take on Ronda Rousey in the first ever women's proper main event at WrestleMania 35, go nuts. Why the hell not? Yep. Why the hell not? It makes sense. I don't mean this disparagingly. I just think they're brought up too quickly. A lot of women currently on the main roster still have a long way to go until they are, where they need to be. Charlotte does not need that. Charlotte is the finished article. We've already seen, again, we'll get to it in a sec. We've already seen that Ronda Rousey knows what she's doing. So with another year under their belt, yeah, absolutely. I imagine this will be a very smart plan overall. But a great match. And Charlotte still, look, it gives that belt more credence depending what they do coming out the other end. She's held on to it for ages, and she won when everyone thought she was going to lose. So yeah, it's hard to be too mad at it. We then moved on to what I still consider to be one of the low points of the evening, which was the US title match. Now look, it was fine, right? It was fine, but it kind of felt like WWE's placed it here because they wanted the fans to have a break. I wasn't really into it. Thank goodness Rusev was in it, because without Rusev, I don't know. But as you mentioned earlier, look, I don't mind Jinder Mahal being the US champion either. I really don't. I think it's an easy way to get heat, and you want to keep him at a certain position on the card post his world title run. However, my problem is when you have a guy that is now officially quite popular in the WWE and you still choose him to be the guy to take the fall. That to me just says straight away, we've got no interest in doing anything with this guy. This whole Rusev thing's come along. It's great that it's selling merchandise. However, it's not something we're really going to look into.
It's not only, and you said it was just kind of fine, but not only is it we have no interest in this guy, it's, what are you, stupid? Why are you interested in this guy?
Exactly. It's almost like you're being punished because you like him. I mean, also, what is that about? Yeah.
Also, more than WWE, the person who's, like, I think responsible for this is actually you, Simon, because before I started listening to you, I couldn't have given two craps about Rusev. He's boring. He's just, he's from Bulgaria, cool. And then you're like, oh, no, he's actually really good. And then now I like him, and I should have known better.
Well, I'm glad. I can drag you down into much. It's all right. It's what I try and do. My whole life is all about dragging people down. No, but I just think he's an unfiltered talent, and he's an unrecognized talent, and I just I don't know.
It would really be a shame if he's an unrecognized talent that they only recognize once he leaves and does something somewhere else, because you've had him this whole time, you've done something with him, it was successful, and now he's reinvented himself, and you're just not taking advantage of it. And in a time when I feel like you need somebody who can be in either that upper mid-card or could be a main eventer with how popular he is right now, I really feel like you're doing yourself a disservice by not at least attempting to run with that.
I think so. And making him take the pin, I don't get. Like, I don't really care. Like, it's wrestling, whatever. No. However, I don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand what the what the goal with this is. But hey, anyway, that's what happened. Jinder Mahal won. I thought the match was average at best. I don't know whether you enjoyed it more than I did. I thought it was okay.
It was the restroom break match, and I was just kind of waiting for the finish because I thought if you're going to add Rusev to the match, there's no other reason to do it other than him winning. It was just kind of there, and it kind of seems like a conscious decision. That's all I got from it.
Yeah, me too. I definitely think it was one of the, just one of the lower points of the evening. But hey, whatever. It was fine. It was what it was. It's there. We'll see what happens on SmackDown. And then, of course, I think we probably got to what many people decided, and I think it's fair, was the highlight of the evening. Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey versus Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. I think just sort of like the real highlight was, Ronda Rousey is a bit like Brock Lesnar in the sense that she looks really, really good. That's kind of, she had fire, she had intensity, all her stuff looked good, it looked real. It's kind of one of those things where I'm sure they've been preparing for this exact match for ages. So going forward, we'll have to see how she adapts. But it worked, and it's hard to criticize at the moment, given that it was her debut.
It was her debut at WrestleMania. She had Triple H on the other side. She had Kurt Angle beside her, but in mixed tag rules, her opponent was Stephanie McMahon, who's not somebody who's going to carry you through something like this. She was in a match with Kurt Angle, Triple H, and Stephanie McMahon. She was the highlight. She felt really intense. She felt like she genuinely wanted to punch everybody's head off. And she was in there not to do anything necessarily flashy. She was like a car crash straight ahead, and she very surprisingly for her first match made it look really good and didn't seem out of place for a second. She just seemed like the biggest deal in that match.
Absolutely. I think they hit the nail on the head. The crowd wanted to see her. She delivered when she did, and I think really that's all she needed to do. And now, it's really hard to to cement your place on the roster. But I think she's done that now, just because she put in a good performance, and that's what wrestling fans, that's what they want to see. What did you think about the fallout on Raw? Obviously, Raw started. Stephanie McMahon comes out. She says it's all about her. She's great. She's wonderful. And now she wants to make friends with Ronda Rousey. Ronda comes up, pretends to hug her, puts her in the armbar. Now, I thought it was a really good opening segment to Raw. The crowd loved it. Obviously, helps Ronda. It's also great to see Stephanie McMahon finally get comeuppance, not once but twice in a row. Finally, only took about a decade. However, I don't necessarily think I want to see Ronda Rousey and Stephanie McMahon have an elongated feud. I don't want this to be Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon. I just don't. To me, Ronda has beaten Stephanie on the biggest stage. I'm hoping this was an angle to take Stephanie away, but my gut tells me it may be more of this is her focus for some time.
When you just said, I don't want it to be Vince McMahon, Stone Cold, my stomach dropped because I didn't even think about that. Oh, gosh. Because her Raw starts, Stephanie's music hits. I'm going to be honest with you, I skipped that part. Skip Stephanie's music, can't handle it. And then Ronda comes out, hug, armbar. I don't know if it was what I thought or if it what I was hoping, that they're doing it so that Stephanie can not be on TV for a little bit.
Could be.
At WrestleMania, she just kind of tapped. Ronda didn't keep the armbar in, and I was very much hoping that, okay, we did this again. There was no Triple H this time. It was just Stephanie. Hopefully this is just a one-off thing. But, yeah, I really hope that they're not trying to do they're trying to hold Ronda down and Ronda's fighting against the authority thing, because it's not 2012.
No, I don't know. To me, she's already won. But I don't know. I did. What did you think about when Stephanie McMahon had the fighting skills to hold off the armbar?
Well, Simon, when you're a seasoned performer like that, yeah. I was of two minds about it. My initial reaction was, wait, what? and then my all right, it's fake, calm down part of my brain was, all right, if Stephanie and Triple H have been working out together at 4 a.m. on Instagram, The only thing that I'm having Stephanie do is I'm putting an armbar on her, and you are figuring out 800 different ways to not. You don't need to be able to reverse it. You don't need to be able to out-wrestle Ronda Rousey. But the way that I figured it in my head is that every second that they spent training for this match in storyline terms was 100%. Stephanie, you're going to figure out like 2 ways to get out of the armbar. And that's all you need to do.
Well, that's a very good kayfabe reason. I like that.
Yeah.
That's very good. I thought it was okay. The thing that just made me laugh is I can imagine the conversation backstage. I can imagine Stephanie McMahon slowly going, well, maybe I could block the armbar. and everyone,
maybe you try to put it on and it doesn't work.
Yeah, and everyone being like, what? You mean like professional fighters can't do? Yeah, I think I could do that. And everyone just being like, yeah, it's fine, Steph, whatever you want.
I'm very similar to Holly Holm.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
But I can imagine, I can hear them saying that. I can hear them saying that. Like that promo video beforehand when they're like, this is our world. I'm like, yeah, they believe this. They totally, I mean, it was great. It was really well done. But I'm like, they totally believe this is true. 100%.
Didn't feel like there was even a camera on. It just felt like they were just talking.
Yeah, I don't know how Kurt Angle feels about all this as well. He's been completely lost in the shuffle with all of this. I mean, which I guess had to happen. He's not going to sell any more tickets. Ronda Rousey is. But yeah, he was surplus to requirements here. And also, I was a bit miffed that, we get to Raw and, Kurt Angle's there, but he's not really sort of talking about it. And Triple H just didn't turn up.
That was odd. That was. It definitely felt like I'm here just for this, and it wouldn't have been a big a deal without me. And now that I'm finished doing my thing, we're good here. It felt weird, and I expected Kurt to kind of be the 4th person in that match. Because I feel like it was a bigger deal than it would have been if it had just been Kurt Angle and Triple H. It definitely seemed weird, and that was the other reason I thought that it was kind of, we're moving on from this, is like everybody just kind of reset to where they were before this happened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it felt very much in the moment. I totally agree. But hey, look, it was a really good WrestleMania 34 match. Ronda Rousey now has genuine potential to make that company a lot of money, so they'll be happy. It was great. It was great. I got no problems with it whatsoever in terms of where it sat on the WrestleMania 34 card. Then we had a come-down match. We had the triple threat match for the SmackDown titles. I thought it was okay. I thought it was fine. The Bludgeon Brothers dominated. That's what they should have done. They're the new champions. That's all right. It is what it is. It's okay.
Yeah, it was okay. The Usos are my favorite team. I was the one dork who, before they turned heel, was still like, no guys, they're really good though. So to see them come out at WrestleMania as champions, and they're not on the pre-show, they've worked and they've built up something really cool, and here's a match, and then the New Day come out with Little People and Pancakes, and then they have like a 5-minute thing. It was fine. It was there. I'm glad that New Day performed this year. I'm glad Luke Harper's back, and I'm glad the Usos got a moment. That's kind of all I could take from it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's fair. I think it was what it was. I'm just glad that they booked it in the way they did. I'll be intrigued to see what happens from now. Like on Raw, they talked about the Superstar Shake-Up that's happening next week, over both Raw and SmackDown. I don't know. Do we move the Usos? Do we move the New Day? I imagine the Bludgeon Brothers will stay put. But, I mean, would you shift them around? I mean, does this feud continue? I don't really know what we do.
Bludgeon Brothers definitely stay. I feel like at this point, because they did the match at Fastlane and it was interrupted, I don't necessarily see the point of keeping the New Day and the Usos on the same show.
Yeah.
So I would be willing to bet that if Vince McMahon is going to move one team, it's going to be the New Day to Raw. But it definitely feels like one of those two teams kind of needs to move over. Bludgeon Brothers are obviously staying, and of the two, to me, the Usos seem more like they're fine with them staying on SmackDown, and the New Day is like one of their attractions and they put their attractions on Raw. That's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, no, I think you're totally right. I would like, my big thing with the Superstar Shake-Up is I want the tag team divisions and women's divisions to be shuffled up. The men, I'm actually quite happy with how it is at the moment. I don't think we need to muck around with that too much.
Yeah.
A couple of trades. A couple of trades is fine, but let's nah, let's not overdo it. That would just be my gut feeling.
That would be good, and I've given up having one tag division, one women's division, but I thought it would be cool if we kept 2 tag titles, but somehow or another, we have the Raw and SmackDown women's titles. Let's have that be one title, and let's have the women's champion float between the two, because then it feels like you don't just have a Raw and SmackDown title. And if you're going to go with Charlotte, make Charlotte a big deal. Make her the champion. And then at least something has actually gotten shaken up other than, oh, New Day's on Raw now.
Yes, I'm with you. I hope there's more reasons for it as well, but we'll see. I do enjoy it in the sense that it adds a bit of fresh air and a bit of pacing to your usual Raw and SmackDown, which nicely segues me into what was my personal highlight of WrestleMania 34. Because while I have been slandered for saying this, I don't care. I think everything that Undertaker and John Cena did at WrestleMania 34 was tremendous. From the moment that John Cena was sitting in the crowd to the point that he ran backwards in what was the stupidest thing I've ever seen, but therefore brilliant, to him coming out and Elias and the lights going off and the tease with the fans to the short match. To me, it was a whole show angle pretty much. It all did what I wanted it to do. It's John Cena, so I don't mind the Undertaker whooped his ass. It's not like we haven't buried John Cena, have we? It's John flipping Cena. It makes no difference. I just thought it was excellent. I thought it was genuinely excellent, and I need to let this process a bit more, but I'm pretty sure it's one of my favourite angles ever. That's how much I enjoyed it. I was desperate to see where it was going to go. The Elias, I tell you, man, it was 2 a.m. over here, and that Elias tease, I stood up. I just stood up, and I was like, that is... Oh, it's just so good. I mean, I wasn't even into that Elias, and then in the last 24 hours, I've got a complete 180 because this was booked so well, and that is the beauty of pro wrestling. If you come up with something, well, for me personally anyway, if you come up with something that hits me, I say emotionally, but I mean more in a funny, hilarious, brilliant kind of a way, you win me over, and that's what Elias did. So then when I see him 24 hours later, those same kind of emotions... come back up, and I like him all of a sudden. So I just think this helped everybody. I really do. I think this helped everybody. John Cena's the most protected guy in the company. He's John Cena. It doesn't matter. He wasn't even on Raw, for example, which I've only just realised now as I'm talking about it. He wasn't even mentioned on Raw, which kind of sums it up.
It definitely does. It'll be interesting to see kind of what they're gonna do. I mean, I know what they're gonna do. John's gonna come out. He's gonna say, "I lost. Undertaker was the better man." I've seen this movie, but I think I'm similarly minded to you. I think I'm a couple notches down. It wasn't. I don't know that I would say it was my favorite angle that I have seen in some time, but I think. When Elias came out, and especially when Elias said, "Were you expecting somebody else?" I almost fell out of my chair. I was laughing so hard.
Yeah, so good.
Everyone was so disappointed. It was so, and you knew the Undertaker was coming. Was the cool thing, and everybody was still like, "What?" And then the Undertaker comes out. They have his hat and coat in the ring. Lightning hit it. That's one of those things that if somebody else were here, it'd be hard to explain, but it was really cool because I have the history in my head. And then he comes out, and it felt like a big deal. And the cool thing is that the lasting memory that that the WWE tells you is that the Undertaker had his coat and hat in the ring. But before that was a match with Roman Reigns that nobody's fault necessarily. It just wasn't the match that they would have wanted to have. And if you're going to have a memory of the Undertaker from WrestleMania, this last year made me just feel like, oh, okay. This year was like, all right, that was really cool. And it wasn't John Cena versus the Undertaker wasn't a match that was advertised on the card. So it's not like they built up, oh, it's going to be a classic. It was John Cena calling out the Undertaker. The Undertaker didn't answer. John Cena comes to the ring, and The Undertaker beats the crap out of him for 2.5 minutes. We're done. Undertaker looked great because he was only there for 3 minutes. It was really cool.
I couldn't agree with you more, man. And I think that was probably the thinking or the thought process behind the scenes. What do we do to, reinvigorate this Undertaker at WrestleMania magic? I'm not saying they've done that because I don't think they can after Lesnar and Reigns, but I think they've rehabbed it as much as they could. He beat a genuine star. I liked all the stuff with the lightning bolt and the hat and the coat being in the ring and then out the ring. I just thought it kind of took all my favourite Undertaker moments and kind of merged them into one.
Yeah.
And I'm all right. Honestly, it was a whole show angle. And if you're going to give me a 7-hour show, I really do appreciate a whole show angle, especially when it's done as well as this, with two of the biggest stars in the company. I mean, what Undertaker does now, I don't know. What John Cena does now, I don't know. Does it matter? Do I care? There are other questions I need to process. But I think that it's almost, what can they even do? I mean, if the Undertaker wants to feud with a Braun Strowman, yes, I'd be interested in that. But do I care? Not really. Like, it's not something I need to see. It would certainly intrigue me from, that's an interesting point of view, but I don't need it. I think both of those guys can come and go as much as they please, and I'm happy to see them, but I'm also as happy not to see them too. So,
yeah,
that's how I am. Now, the next match was Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. I thought it was very good. Ooh. And the whole Daniel Bryan thing is just wonderful. He's my favourite wrestler in the company at the moment. I just want him to do so well. Like, he's so good at getting that genuine emotion out of me because he is so genuine. However, I do agree with the criticism that's been going around. He should have just been in the match from the start. I didn't think we needed to beat him. He's been out for 3 years. I think Brian Alvarez said that on Wrestling Observer. He's been out for 3 years. We don't need to take him out any longer. I think that was a mistake. However, he won. He got the pin. I didn't see that coming. I actually thought they were going to put Owens and Zayn over. So, in that sense, it was fine. It did what it did. But I just, in a match with Daniel Bryan's comeback, it's slightly disappointing, if I'm going to be a bit of a nerd, that 75% of the match was Shane McMahon. I mean, that's my only problem with it.
It was definitely weird that, if the idea was, we're going to wait, we're going to build up the hot tag, he's going to come in, the roof's going to blow off the place. We've been waiting 3 years for that hot tag. You built it up. We're good. And Shane's a little beat up right now, so I don't know that I necessarily would have had, all right, Shane, you're going to take like 80% of this, and Dan, you're going to come clean up at the end. I mean, it was really cool to see Daniel Bryan. Kind of weird. In Daniel Bryan's promo package before he came out, they did everybody doing the yes chant. Right before that, they had like a Skynet system that was targeting everyone, target acquired.
Yeah.
That's Triple H's from the Sting match. That seemed weird.
Oh my gosh, you're right. Wasn't it the same logo as well?
Same thing. Right,
you keep talking, my friend. I'm looking this up right now. That was 31, right?
Yeah, 31 Triple H and Sting, because it was Target acquired, and Daniel Bryan was one of the people that scrolled over, and then Target acquired Sting. The only difference was it was Daniel Bryan's face, and it was like the Target ended up being the Yes Movement as opposed to Sting. So that was a weird, like that. It didn't feel very Daniel Bryan, and then it also felt like,
oh my gosh, I'm watching it now. It's identical. Dude, what a shout. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Wow, sorry, that's taking me aback. Sorry, keep going, man. That's incredible.
Yeah, it set me off kind of weird where it was like, all right, sure, that's fine. And then the match goes on, and I guess I'm watching the payoff for what they've been doing for a year. I don't necessarily care about Shane McMahon, so you building heat on him doesn't necessarily work for me, but that I understand what the story you're trying to tell. But I am very happy that Daniel came in. He's the one that got the win. Of course, Sammy's the one that took the loss because he's about the same as he ever was. And it was at the end, it was a really cool feel-good moment, and it was going to be, you would have to have actively worked to make it not a big moment. But I've seen the WWE actively work against the Daniel Bryan movement.
That was my worry. I was like, this is what we think, but we also thought this a long time ago as well. So it's like we got to be careful.
I thought this at SummerSlam too, and Randy Orton walked out with the championship. So I was very nervous. It was a very interesting, like, meta kind of match where I'm legitimately worried that the company made a booking decision that's going to be weird. But it made for a really cool moment, so I'm at least glad to have that.
Yeah, I'm just glad he's back. I mean, that's my thing. He was never meant to be in this match. This match was never meant to exist. And I tell you what, it's got me really excited for SmackDown. I cannot wait to see what happens on SmackDown with it. The cool thing on Raw, obviously, is that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn turned up. and they asked Kurt Angle for a job. He's like, well, I got one spot. They then had a match later on. I thought this was really clever given the crowd. Like, no one was going to shit over Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn.
No.
They all loved it. The finish, questionable. When was the last time we saw it? It was a double count out, if you don't know. And I don't mean that outside the ring. I guess a double count down. So you know that stupid when the ref does the whole count to 10 thing because one has to get up. Well, in this match, nobody got up and the match was called off. That never happens. That literally never happens.
No.
But I understand it for the story. I think maybe it could have been a count out. They'd fought to the back or something. But whatever, I get it. We need to build this. And look, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, I could watch them wrestle till the end of time. So it's not a problem. But I'm intrigued. What do we do with them now? I mean, are they affected by the superstar shakeup? Do they just take some time off? I mean, what would you do with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn? Because technically now they can't go on either. Do they go to NXT? That'd be quite cool, actually. They should do that. I really like that.
Send them back.
Yeah, that'd be really good.
That would actually be kind of cool. I also thought just before I said that it was really interesting that they're talking to Kurt Angle and he's like, "You're asking for a job." I mean, I hear I don't know if TNA is hiring.
They did the TNA drop, didn't they? That was interesting.
As far as Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, kind of depends on how you feel about Sami Zayn. Because I feel like Kevin Owens is going to be fine. If I'm keeping one of them, I hate to do it. I'm keeping Kevin Owens. I'm biased, but also based on the track record of the two, I'm keeping Kevin Owens. So it doesn't make sense to me that they were fired from SmackDown and both of them just end up on Raw. So I'm assuming what they're doing is they're holding this out until, I don't know if they're going to do Backlash or what they're going to do, and one of them is guaranteed a roster spot based on who wins, and then it's like no disqualification, no count out, whatever. And then Kevin wins that, and then Sami goes back to SmackDown. If Shane McMahon is stepping down as SmackDown Live commissioner and Daniel Bryan's not going to be the GM anymore, it makes sense that if you bring somebody else in, they'd be like, well, I don't have a problem with Sami Zayn or Kevin Owens, so I'll bring the other one to the show. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, the only thing I could think is that that's the reason that Shane isn't going to be commissioner, so that one of them can come back and we can keep them separated for a while.
It works for me. I'm all right with that. I think separating them is definitely a good... I do like as well how they can have this big fight, but they still seem to be mates. They hate. Deep down, they hate each other anyway. Really. So
yeah.
But no, I thought the WrestleMania match was good. Like the fallout, and I want to see what Daniel Bryan. What's Daniel Bryan's first proper feud? Well, not proper feud. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much. Does he go against? I don't think he would go against Shane, but you could do that. Does he just have some matches with Dolph Ziggler? Whatever. I mean,
I'm bringing the Miz to whatever show he's on.
Well, I mean, I think that's what the superstar shake-up's got to be about. Yeah. And also, I mean, we should have mentioned this. Really, I didn't mention it earlier. The main event of the Raw after Mania was the Miz Taraj versus Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, and a returning Jeff Hardy, which was very nice. Always nice to see Jeff Hardy back. And at the end of the show, the Miz Taraj and the Miz got their asses whipped by those three. And to me, the way I took that is, okay, you're going to have your match at Backlash. You're probably going to lose. And then I imagine you go back to SmackDown. Don't move Daniel Bryan off SmackDown. I don't want that. Leave Daniel Bryan there because I want to see anything he can do with AJ Styles and Nakamura. And I don't believe either of those two are going to move. And we'll get to that in one sec. But yeah, I think you have to do that program, but moves to SmackDown. Just do that. That's what I would do.
Yeah, it definitely feels like The Miz had a job to do, and that was put the Intercontinental on who they have said is the next Shawn Michaels and make it mean something. And now that he's done that, it would kind of feel like a step down for him to just kind of be there and lose again. So if he loses again in the triple threat, that's fine. Move him over. You can do different stuff with him. I think The Miz has been really good for the Intercontinental title and vice versa, but I feel like that time has passed a little bit, and for a while, let's move him away and let's have him do other things.
Agreed. Completely agree. After that, we went on to Nia Jax defeating Alexa Bliss for the Women's Raw Championship. It was fine. That's all I got. It was the right thing to do. Nia Jax should have won. She beat the bully. On Raw the following night, we had another tag match between them. Ember Moon got called up. Great. I mean, that's it. That's all I got. It was fine. It did its job.
Yeah, it was fine. Alexa Bliss is my favorite female wrestler.
Yeah. She's very good.
she's very good. She makes you hate her, and she makes you interested in her match, if only because she's like she's a piece of crap, and you want to see her get punched in the face. That's the whole point. But I guess I didn't really get 100% into the story. I kind of figured, all right, it's Nia Jax's coronation. Nia Jax has never been particularly interesting to me, but that's fine. And they did the right thing. Nia looked strong. Alexa didn't look weak. It did its job. It was there, and Nia's the new champion.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine. What I did enjoy was that on the Raw after Mania, you know, with the louder crowd and stuff, Nia Jax got a really big babyface pop. And
that was cool.
It's incredible when that stuff happens.
Yeah.
It does warm you to that person more than when that doesn't happen. And I think that is the real shame with modern day wrestling, is that doesn't happen more. Because crowds will go into business for themselves, which is fine.
Yeah.
You do whatever you want to do. But it did make Nia Jax feel like a bigger deal. And I missed that. And look, hey, Ember Moon on Raw, perfectly fine with that. Probably the right time to bring her up. That division needs spicing up. So yeah, I thought it was all right.
Yeah, it was a cool moment, and I really liked the crowd reacting huge for Nia, and it does make for a better show when everybody kind of plays a role. So I liked it.
Indeed. Now, AJ Styles versus Nakamura. I mean, if you see in my What Culture stuff, you know. I'm gonna give you the floor here.
Okay.
Because I've had a lot of differing opinions, and I agree with most of them, which makes no sense, but I do. Obviously, on paper, this, you know, going to be the biggest match. You know, it was the show stealer on paper.
Yeah.
Where did you come out on the other end?
So, this is the only time in the immediate that I can think of that I think I would have enjoyed it more if I hadn't watched any of the promo material for the match.
Yes.
This was Mr. Perfect Shawn Michaels for the Intercontinental title, and the whole time they're telling you, this is going to be classic. This is going to be one of the greatest matches. Stop. Because you let it be that. Don't tell me it's going to be that.
Yeah, exactly, because you ruined my brain.
Yeah, it's AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura, two are the best performers you have. It makes sense for them to have a WrestleMania match. They have their New Japan match, but the difference was that the New Japan match, it felt like, go out there, do what you need to do, don't worry about time. Here, it felt like, let's go out here, you're going to have a match, you have X amount of time, we're about to do our next segment, and you're not the main event. They tried to have their cake and eat it too. They tried to push it's going to be a classic match, it's going to be one of the best things ever, but you didn't make it the main event. I understand, but you didn't. And it felt like an old school wrestling, don't give everything away, brother. Keep some stuff for the next town. And I understand that, but I don't understand that at WrestleMania. So I don't know if AJ's still banged up. I feel like that probably had something to do with it.
Very good shout, my friend. I forgot about that. That is no one's mentioned that. That's a very good point.
Well, listen, Simon, I'm trying to be a recurring character here, all right? I got to bring... and it's... I think that if I had watched this in a bubble and not watched any of the promo stuff, and I had just seen Shinsuke win the Royal Rumble, and I had seen AJ win the WWE Championship, and then I had watched this match, I feel like I would have enjoyed it more. I still enjoyed it. It was one of those moments where you're like a wrestling nerd and you're like, I never thought this was going to happen.
Yep, agreed.
So it was very cool to see. I feel like they would have benefited if this had been their third match as opposed to their first.
I think that's fair, yeah. I think that it kind of works both ways, doesn't it? Because you want that, if it had paid off and it had been the match that a lot of people kind of wanted it to be, and it was their first one on WWE, exactly, you can go like, oh, what a moment, but you're right, it wasn't. So maybe it could have been the blow-off and that would have worked better. I do agree with you totally. I totally forgot about the injury. I think that's a great shout. I probably did tie into things. To me, it just wasn't what I wanted it to be. It was a really good wrestling match, but it wasn't the greatest thing I've ever seen. And a part of me, as you said, bought into that hype. And also, if we hadn't have had the heel turn afterwards by Nakamura, I think I would have felt... I think that heel turn, and this is classic WWE, right? It's what they do with the story that almost ties into everything else. But that heel turn by Nakamura and his change in demeanor and his aggression, all of that, I was instantly like, yeah, this is good. Now it all makes sense. And also, now I want to tune into SmackDown, which is the whole point, right? It's a television show. So that certainly saved it for me. But if we are talking about just the wrestling, I don't want to go as far as disappointment. That's too much. I would have just hoped for more. That's a better way to phrase it.
Yeah, I would have hoped for more. I mean, that's kind of the curse of being a wrestling fan, isn't that you get really excited for these matchups and then inevitably something's going to kind of disappoint you. But I was at least glad that, because when AJ wins kind of out of nowhere with the Styles Clash, which has been set up as like a
great finish, though. I mean, I love that finish.
Yeah, it was. But the Styles Clash has been set up more as his signature move than his finisher.
Yep, agreed.
And my first reaction was, I care a little bit less about Shinsuke than I did before that 3 count, because now he's lost 3 title matches, I think. But then low blow on AJ, kicks the crap out of him. That couldn't have been fun. And then walks out. It made him way more interesting. They released that special about him before WrestleMania, and it made me want him to be champion. It was really well done. He's really cool. He got to just talk and not have something scripted for him. It made him really interesting. This was the other way, that if he's going to lose, that's fine, but he needs to feel interesting. And this isn't a side of him that I've seen before, and I'm excited to see where that part goes. So at least something came out of it where it can continue from here.
Yeah, completely, man. But the good thing is, feud's going to continue. And now we can kind of establish those face heel lines. AJ is the face, Nakamura's a heel. Hell yeah, man! I mean, I'm all right with that. Man. That's okay.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay, we're just going to do it. So, Braun Strowman... Now, look, everyone knows. I'm not even going to run down the match. Everyone knows what happened here. I don't mind it. In terms of in the moment, I was almost in tears. I thought it was so funny. And I thought it was so ridiculous. And as I mentioned earlier in this podcast, I had to say, someone asked what happened at WrestleMania, and I said, a 10-year-old won the title. They don't watch any wrestling, zero. And they said to me, we're not a literal 10-year-old. And I was like, no. I literally mean a 10-year-old child won the title.
No, his name's Nicholas.
Exactly. Yeah. It baffled. They were like, what do you mean? I thought you were being like contrary. I was like, no. I mean an actual child. And in that sense, it's funny. And on Raw, when Braun and Nicholas turn up, I mean, I can't help. I loved it. However, sometimes we do have to put our critical hats on. Not only did this happen on WrestleMania, he just gave it up on Raw because he's got school. What are the tag team belts worth anymore? Nothing. And I don't care. It's wrestling. Wrestling is irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. But it's a wrestling podcast. We got to take it seriously to some degree. Otherwise, what's the point? What the fuck? I mean, I know all of this is clearly last minute because the Braun Strowman was meant to be in the Miz program. They changed their mind. They needed something for him to do, and they came up with this quirky idea. Look, it's WWE. In a week's time, we're all going to forget about this because that's just how it works. However, on today, when Raw is but a few hours removed and WrestleMania is, a couple of days removed, I don't get it. I do not get it. It's crazy.
And I know... You said in a week we're going to forget about it. And here's the thing, Simon. If we do this again in, let's say, 6 months, and plant the seeds, brother, and you're talking about something else, the first thing that I'm going to say to you is, yeah, cool, whatever it is. Braun won the Universal title. Hey, Simon, real quick, remember when he won the titles with that 10-year-old? Remember when that happened? I'm not letting that go. Wrestling is stupid. Wrestling is fake. Wrestling is funny.
Wrestling is definitely stupid.
You can have a 10-year-old boy. I had to catch myself because while he was in the ring, I out loud to myself said, it wasn't that he was a 10-year-old boy. It wasn't that this was stupid or disappointing at first. It was, well, they didn't have him sign a contract. This isn't going to be binding. And I had to be like, hey, Zed, that's a 10-year-old boy, man.
That's like when Bray Wyatt got thrown into the lake of reincarnation. I went, he can change now. I was like, Simon, it's not a real lake of reincarnation. It's just a lake.
He's going to dry off. He's going to be totally different.
Yeah, that's what I said to myself.
Yeah, wrestling's cool because now he is different. It's the lake of reincarnation. Why wouldn't he be different? When Braun... Go ahead.
There you go, man. You go.
When Braun started walking through the crowd, out loud, I'm just like, no, please no, please don't. And then he grabs this little boy, and I was like, okay, I understand what they're doing here, but why did you tease a mystery partner and do Braun Strowman, and then the payoff is Nicholas?
It's the name. The name makes it Nicholas. Just some guy. Just some kid.
I love that he got a name, and there's no last name. It's just
exactly, Nicholas.
And then they put him in the ring for a second, and Sheamus for a second was like, I could probably take him out.
That is funny. It was funny. It was funny.
Yeah.
And you hit the nail on the head in the sense that, it is wrestling, and we can do stuff like this. So we should. It's a talking point.
Yeah.
I actually agree. You know what? I loved it. I don't care. Who cares, man? It's fucking hilarious. Like, I don't care. If
you're going to do this with somebody, Braun Strowman's the guy that you could do it with, because I will believe him pulling down a stage on Kane and Brock Lesnar. I will also believe him saying, when Nicholas finishes 4th grade, we're going to be back and they're going to get these hands. I'll believe both. I don't care. I'm down.
Yeah, and you could tell it was so last minute as well, because that was it for Braun on Raw. Didn't see him again.
That's it. He just stopped by real quick, going to drop this off. I'm a gentleman. I'm not an asshole. I'm going to drop the titles back off. Yeah.
I think it may have been better, and I'm being a picky asshole here, but I think it may have been better if Braun had said, look, I'd like to get another partner, and then lost them. I get they don't want Braun to lose, but I just think give those titles some credence. That's my only problem. They literally threw the titles away. That's what they did. They just, I don't want them. All right, okay, I'll have them. Thanks.
I don't want. Yeah, it was. It was like Triple H being handled the world title.
Yeah, it was like that. Yeah.
Worse, because it was just like these jeans don't fit your brother anymore. Here.
Well, Nicholas probably still getting hand-me-downs, so it's all good. But like, I can't look. The whole time we've been talking about this, I've been smiling. So
yeah,
you know what? Yeah. I can't be mad at it. I just can't. I should be, and I have been on ups and downs and stuff, but I can't. Here on Simon Miller's
and I'm laughing. Exactly. I don't know what to do.
No, me neither, man. I mean, but. Fuck it. We're just oh dear, so bizarre. But anyway, that led us to our main event. I mean, look, the main event is what it is now. It's all kind of changed after the fact, because we learned about Brock Lesnar re-signing. Brock Lesnar apparently threw a hissy fit backstage, but there's an argument there maybe that was at work. We don't know. What I was hearing today, I don't know whether you heard this, is apparently that nobody even knew that Brock Lesnar was winning, other than Roman Reigns. All the usual players, like McMahon's, probably Triple H knew, but in terms of like the writers didn't know that. People were surprised when it happened. The referee, this is all stuff I've been told, obviously by Meltzer and people like that, not personally, but that apparently the ref was even fed the information halfway through the match. Look, just count the 3, which is basically like don't worry about what you've been told, just do it. So there's certainly a situation here, but to me, and I understand, I got some flack for this because I guess I'm coming at the direct people. The fans ruined it. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you don't like the match, that's cool. Absolutely, on no planet am I ever telling you should cheer for the sake of it. No, WWE's there to entertain you. But this was a lackluster before they'd even locked up, and I think that was my problem with it.
It was, and I understand why you would do it. It's the 4th or 5th WrestleMania main event. They can say there's multiple main events, but the last match is the main event.
Absolutely,
it's the 4th or 5th in a row for Roman Reigns, and I like Roman Reigns, but he's the same guy he was when the Shield broke up.
Yep.
And as soon as the music hit, and the bigger problem, I out loud was like, oh no, when Brock Lesnar's music hit, and it was either boos or people didn't care. And I was like, the story that you guys told is that Brock is a part-timer, Brock is not here, Brock does not represent this company or the Universal Championship with the reverence that he should, which has been the knock on Brock Lesnar the whole time. whatever. If I have a contract, I wish I had that contract. But this story seemed like it was working in the lead up to WrestleMania. And then, as it turned out, all that you really did was you made people hate Roman Reigns and care less about Brock Lesnar. And the fans immediately turned on it. And last time they were at WrestleMania, they had a good match, and it at least had heat in that they didn't want Roman to win. You at least had that. This one was they were booing the fact that the match was even happening, and at that point, I don't even know if you as an audience are having fun if you're just immediately crapping on the match. And I understand why you did it, but they didn't have a chance. I don't know if this would have been a classic WrestleMania match and the coronation of Roman Reigns. They've been trying that for 4 years now.
I just couldn't believe they didn't pull the trigger on it again. That's what I can't believe. It's like, look, if you want to do it, man, it's your company. You do it. But yeah, that's
the bigger problem that I had, and I don't mean to fast forward, but the bigger problem that I had was that Brock Lesnar beat Roman Reigns clean in the middle of the ring. And the last time they faced off, Seth Rollins pinned Roman Reigns for the WWE title. And the night after Raw, they just announced that, oh, the reason we did that is because they're having a steel cage match at the Greatest Royal Rumble. Oh, but there's Samoa Joe. Oh, but Samoa Joe's mad at Roman Reigns, but then he just says, I'm going to be waiting at Backlash. So the only reason you did this was to hold it off for the Greatest Royal Rumble?
It seems that way.
I get it. It's a big match, but it just failed spectacularly.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. I get it from a business point of view. That probably will make them more money because that 10-year deal they've got with Saudi Arabia, whatever it is considered a big deal. However, it's going to be seen by less people. You're right, it kind of throws away a year's build. It makes it even more convoluted and confusing. It takes away something from both Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of any of this. I love Samoa Joe coming back on Raw. That was awesome. Cut an amazing promo. You'd have to imagine that originally the plan was going to be Roman Reigns versus Samoa Joe at Backlash for the Universal title. I still think that will be the case. But yeah, the way we've got there is, look, it makes it more interesting as a smart fan because it allows us to jump into something. But yeah, as maybe more of a storyline WWE fan, interesting, to say the least, and not potentially as productive as it could have been otherwise. So yeah, I don't know. The match was ruined by the fans for me. I couldn't get into it. Obviously, they grabbed him back when he did the finish. You know, Roman Reigns coming out on Raw and starting this like conspiracy theory angle kind of makes it work a little bit. But again, it feels very much after the fact, and I think that's the problem. We had a plan and we veered away from the plan, so now we're like, how do we make this work? Yeah, okay, he's untrustworthy and he's down, but I don't know. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by it. So I think that's good. But I need to see where we are in a month or so.
This kind of feels like when Roman came out and he looks very despondent, very beat up, which makes sense, he should. And then Samoa Joe comes out and says, you failed, you're a failure, you're also a liar. You're going to lose at the Greatest Royal Rumble. It felt, and not to bring this back up, but it felt a lot like when Roman was suspended for a month and then Dean Ambrose pinned him at Battleground. And then they had the Universal title, and Mick Foley and Stephanie McMahon are in the ring. Everybody's on the apron. It's when Finn Balor got announced. And the first 5 minutes of that was them saying, well, if Roman had just freaking not lost, well, if Roman wasn't such a loser, well, if Roman could do this, Roman could do that. Oh, by the way, you're in one of the qualifying matches. It felt like that where it was like, okay, you seem like you're mad at him, but then the guy who just lost clean is also going to get a rematch. But then here's another guy who said you're a failure, you're a liar, you're going to lose, but that guy's not in the match. It just felt very weird and pasted together and kind of a weird way to set that up.
I agree. But, I mean, this is what happens when Brock Lesnar re-signs contracts at the last minute, right?
Yeah.
I mean, apparently it's a short-term contract. I don't know what that means. Is that 6 months? Is that a year? It's got written into it. They can have one UFC match. So that means that to me says it's got to be a year. Because, Brock can't compete for 6 months. He's got to get back into the USADA testing pool first, and that's a 6-month wait after his suspension. So I imagine it's a year contract. I don't know. Like I say, I think with the fallout from it, it's become a very interesting main event. But from
it's more interesting than it was.
Yeah, but from a sort of performance point of view, not a performance point of view, because I thought they put the time in. Yeah, it just fell flat, didn't it? It just fell flat. I mean, it just that's the truth of it. And apparently, of course, Brock Lesnar threw a tantrum backstage afterwards. He threw the belt at the wall and stuff. And again, who knows if that's true or not? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know who. It's weird to me that he would do that, and then like he's also the guy who is in this for the money. I'm here to get out, which I respect. I'm actually cool with. But then you hear these stories where like he's legitimately pissed off that like you just sent me out there in a damn death trap. Don't do that. Don't do that shit. That's kind of cool that Brock was like, hey, knock it off.
Well, he's the only person that can, right? I think that's how he gets away with it. Who else could do it? John Cena could do it? I think that's
him and John Cena, maybe Randy Orton.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Undertaker, obviously, but he doesn't really count anymore.
Yeah, well...
But yeah, Brock Lesnar is... This is why I can't hate him. Everyone tries to get that... He's fucking living the dream. I'll take his gig. I'll take his gig tomorrow.
He got to throw the Universal title against the wall. He yelled at Vince, and nothing's happening.
Nothing. Imagine Finn Balor did that. See you, Finn Balor.
Oh, he'd be gone so fast.
You are out of here.
Oh
dear. Other things on Raw that I'll just touch upon quickly as well. No way Jose debuted. That's fine. It looks like he's going to be an opening mid-card act in the same vein as Adam Rose. Doesn't really surprise me. Paige retired, which was sad. Bobby Lashley came back in an awesome section with Elias. You should definitely go and watch that. And the authors of Pain got called up too. I just thought I'd throw all that out there. I mean, sort of obviously excited about Bobby Lashley, I take it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was right before, well, a few years before I clocked out. You said a lot that one of the things that struck you about Triple H is that he looked very different than everybody else. He's very well put together. He's very muscular. He looks like a vicious guy who could beat the crap out of you. Bobby Lashley was that for me. He was silent a lot of the time because he couldn't talk at the time, but he was he's probably for the best. He was the biggest guy. He was also like scare the crap out of you fast. And I remember him being in the steel cage, and then he jumps at the cage and knocks it over onto Umaga or whoever it was. And I have memories of Bobby Lashley in that capacity. So when he comes out and I get to see him, and now the crowd is reacting big time to him and saying, welcome back. It was really cool that like he was kind of just a big guy that they brought in at first. And then he went away. He got really good. And, now he's back. And he's the only guy I can think of that could wear like a sweatband and nobody's like, that's kind of lame.
I love the fact he wore the sweatband. It's like, well, you're going to take the piss out of him? Look at him.
I'm not telling him. You tell him.
And I thought, I thought everything. I thought the pop was good as you'd expect. He looked awesome. The suplex on Elias was all. I am a bit worried. I didn't care before. Actually, that's not true. I did a video on it. But Elias is becoming a bit of a jobber.
Oh, he's becoming a jobber, but he's becoming a jobber like without even a match.
That's the thing. He just play. But then again, it's working, right? I like him now more than ever. So. Right. I don't know. He's an interesting conundrum, but no, I thought the Bobby Lashley thing was great. Out of everything we just talked about, the only thing I didn't like is when Authors of Pain got rid of Paul Ellering. I thought it was so nice and refreshing to see Paul Ellering on Raw. I'm an old school wrestling fan, so I get excited about nostalgia. But also, it was nice to see a manager with a tag team. I know Vince McMahon doesn't like managers, but can we not have one? Can we not have one manager? And that's the story they told. I thought that's a shame that we just got here.
It was. I'm actually very excited because we get to disagree about something and not just be two dudes agreeing about wrestling together. When I watched TakeOver last night, or the night before rather, and I saw Paul Ellering come out with the Authors of Pain in the promo package. The Authors of Pain were talking, and they didn't do a lot of that in NXT. Paul Ellering talked for them, and the first thing I thought was, okay, so we're moving on without Paul Ellering then, because there's no other reason for them to talk.
Yeah.
When they did it, the first thing I said was, yeah, fuck him. Because I agree with you, it's very cool to have managers, but I felt like Paul Ellering was not so much a manager or an advocate as much as he was a guy that, like, brought them to the dance. And I thought it was kind of cool that they were like, nah, man, we're here. We're good. Now, if Andrade Cien Almas comes up and Selena Vega's not there, you better fix that shit. But I kind of felt like, okay, so this guy got them to the dance. Now they're here, and now they're leaving him behind. I kind of liked it.
Fair enough, man. I could buy into that. I think we'll have to wait and see, right? I think for me it was more just, Paul Elleringon's on Raw. That's nice.
Yeah, right? It was cool.
I think you hit the nail on the head there as well, though. I think you're right. I think we will see Almas on SmackDown today, later on. I think that's, and I also think I had another name. Who was my other name? Oh, I've forgotten now. It doesn't matter. I think that'd be good. I think he'll be really good on SmackDown. I'm quite excited to see it. I mean, that's it. That is all the wrestling that's taken place in the last sort of 48 hours. I still need to catch up on everything else that happened over the weekend. There's still an amazing Ring of Honor show for me to see, apparently.
Yes.
I've got to see that Kenny Omega versus... Have you seen the Kenny Omega versus Cody Rhodes match from the Ring of Honor?
I haven't seen it. I saw kind of fallout from it, but I was like, oh, that must have been really good.
Yeah. I want to see Marty Scurll versus... I've forgotten his damn name now. The Ring of Honor champion. There we go. Thank you very much. I want to see that too. Apparently that's good. So there's loads of wrestling for me to catch up on, which I will do at some point. But I think, and you let me know, I think mostly WrestleMania... I mean, NXT Takeover was incredible. Now that I've seen that as well, and we should probably just quickly, because I know we're going on here, but just quickly, yes. If you haven't seen Gargano versus Ciampa, go and watch Gargano versus Ciampa. It's probably the best WWE match maybe ever, or it's at least in the debate. And watch the opening ladder match as well. I mean, the whole card's amazing, but yeah.
Oh, the ladder match was incredible. I've watched it like 6 times.
Honestly, I think it's the best multi-man ladder match I've ever seen, and I think Ciampa Gargano is one of the best matches I've ever seen. Genuinely.
And it's the second time in like a couple months that Gargano's been involved in one of the best matches we've ever seen.
I tell you, man, he's the next Daniel Bryan, and people seem to think that's a bad thing. No, it's not. It's a very, very good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Was there anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up?
Man, I think that was it. I think we covered. I wanted to get that ladder match in there. That was the last thing.
Yeah, we smashed that. I mean, that is one. That is people always ask me to go longer. There you go. That's like an hour. That's like an hour and 20 minutes of power.
There you have it.
Right there. So, dude, if anybody wants to come chat to you on Instagram or Twitter or social media, do you have anything, or are you a silent?
I'm not on Instagram and Twitter. I am at Facebook. I am just I'm Zachary Smith. I'm also on Mr. Simon Miller's Patreon page. I'll be involved in that, so you can give me a shout on either of those.
Look at that. You're a nice guy. Well, once again, I want to thank you very much for not only joining me, but pledging in the first place. It's mighty kind of you. If you do want to come on Simon's Pro Wrestling Podcast, you can. It's just patreon.com/Simon Miller 316. Join the Facebook group, which is just blown up now. So many cool conversations. Just search for the name of the podcast in there. I'm on Twitter at Simon 316. It will be up on YouTube, youtube.com/The Miller Report Rules. I think that's leave us 5 stars if you're on iTunes. We will be back either tomorrow or Thursday with another episode. And Zach, maybe we've got to get you back on. Maybe we'll smash some takeover stuff out at some point as well. But it was a great chat.
Absolutely.
I really enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate it, man. I look forward to talking to you again.
Absolutely, dude. Well, look, thank you very much for listening to Simon's Pro Wrestling Podcast. Again, all the stuff that I just advertised and mentioned, hit me up on there. And I'll chat to you in a couple of days.